Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Society of Albany. I am Al DeSalvo, and I'm the Service Associate today. And welcome to everybody who's coming into the community hall. I suspect that this is daylight savings time, so I think some people may still be ready, thinking about coming and realizing that it's actually a little bit later than they thought. Today we welcome to our pulpit Erik von Hausen. Erik is a member of this congregation, involved in Wellspring as a facilitator and as a Pastoral Care Associate. He continues to attempt to live his best life with his husband Todd, and is always available to talk to anyone who needs an ear to listen. And before we continue the service, I wanted to mention, for those who are wanting to have joys and sorrows read aloud, it was brought to my attention by one of the Pastoral Care Associates that you really need to not put your desired joys and sorrow in the chat window early in the service. Wait until the beginning of joys and sorrows to put them in, because it's almost impossible for the Pastoral Care Associates to find the joys and sorrows among all of the other things that folks are chatting about on Zoom during the service.
Good morning. The call to celebration today is called the Golden Chain. It's a Buddhist prayer, author unknown. I am a link in Lord Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends my happiness and my misery. May every link in Lord Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace.
Our prelude is Here Comes the Sun by George Harrison, and it will be presented by, I don't know because I cannot read, thank you, by Chris Jensen and Randy Rosette. Please join in the Chalice Lighting. The words are shown on the screen. Welcoming all free seekers of truth and meaning, we gather to excite the human spirit, to inspire its growth and development, to respond morally and ethically to a troubled world, and to sustain a vital and nurturing religious community. Next, we'll sing a unison song. The words will appear on the screen. Please join in singing Spirit of Life, the song leader, Chris Jensen.
Come to me.
We now welcome our viewers from Facebook who will be joining us for our service. My name is Al DeSalvo, and I'm the Service Associate today, and we welcome to our pulpit Erik vonHausen. Erik is a member of this congregation involved in Wellspring and as a facilitator, and also as a Pastoral Care Associate. He continues to attempt to live his best life with his husband Todd, and is always available to talk to anyone who needs an ear to listen.
How on earth do I follow that wisdom story? I'd rather listen to her than my own sermon. The first reading today comes from an excellent book of poetry by Mary Oliver called Devotions. It's called The Gift. Be still, my soul, and steadfast. Earth and heaven both are still watching, though time is draining from the clock. And your walk, that was confident and quick, has become slow. So be slow if you must, but let the heart still play its true part. Love still as you once loved, deeply and without patience. Let God and the world know that you are grateful that the gift has been given. The spoken meditation is a Baha'i prayer for peace. Be generous in prosperity and thankful in adversity. Be fair in thy judgment and guarded in thy speech. Be a lamp unto those who walk in the darkness and a home to the stranger. Be eyes to the blind and a guiding light unto the feet of the erring. Be a breath of life to the body of humankind, a dew to the soil of the human heart, and a fruit upon the tree of humility. Now for a silent meditation. In 1990, I vividly remember getting my first exposure to the DSM-3 in Psych 101. For anyone who doesn't know, this is a book with descriptions of different types of mental illness and the diagnostic criteria for each. I remember the panic I felt as I realized that I had the symptoms of at least 3 conditions. And I wondered, honestly, who else knew this about me? This, of course, was just before my professor admonished us not to self-diagnose and not to seek her out during her office hours, sure that she would confirm that we did indeed have a mental illness. Apparently, this is a common habit of students taking their first class in psychology. Thus began the birth of my inner monologue, which I flippantly call the voices in my head. They are both positive and reassuring, as well as anxiety producing. Todd and I have been coming to FUSA for about 5 years. I am humbled to be asked to take the pulpit for the 3rd time. Once was This I Believe. The 2nd time was a sermon about striving for inner peace. And today is my 3rd attempt to share, teach, inspire, and hopefully all of the above. It isn't without a measure of trepidation that I speak to you. When I sit around my fellow PCAs, I'm often astounded by their level of compassion, expertise, and total commitment. I do wonder from time to time if I bring enough to the mix. I have been part of 3 Wellspring groups, and each time had facilitators and co-facilitators much more skilled than I. And I've wondered, am I really any good at this? This is one of the voices in my head. Now that I'm in my 50s, I'm at a point in my life where I'm trying to take stock of the choices I've made and what I've accomplished. I come from a family of overachievers, to say the least. My mother graduated from the University of Michigan with a BA in Latin. She did it in only 3 years. My father graduated West Point, a 2nd lieutenant, and went to Vietnam, only to return home and get his bachelor's degree from the University of Pittsburgh. He went on to become a very successful businessman in the printing industry. My brother Kurt graduated Georgia Tech and is now doing extremely well in telecommunications engineering. I say all that to say I walked an extremely different path. I gave up my spot at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary after a summer in India, and my life went in a completely different direction. I've always viewed careers, being successful, and achieving financial success with very little interest. To me, life was about being a peacemaker and connecting with others and practicing the middle way as my calling. Thich Nhat Hanh, who recently died, said, "The miracle is not to walk on water. The miracle is to walk on the green earth in this present moment, to appreciate the peace and the beauty that are available now." It is not a matter of faith. It is a matter of practice. And this best summarizes the middle way. Thich Nhat Hanh is a voice inside my head. In Unitarian Universalism, the living tradition which we share draws from many sources. The second source is words and deeds of prophetic women and men which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. My father, many years ago, told me something that really opened my mind. He said, "Erik, not everyone loves a vonHausen, and it's okay. I know maybe some of you agree. I can be boisterous, loud, and a little crass. So we understand why we are not for everyone. We are also loving, loyal, and always willing to help others. We don't judge people." My father said, "Don't judge people who don't understand you too harshly. They may change their mind and be your best friend the next day." This piece of wisdom gave me the freedom to love others and myself when they didn't love me. We don't love others to get love back. We love others because we can. And when we do, that love goes to that person and the others that they come in contact, and little by little, it changes the world. It also comes back to us, although sometimes that is harder to see. My father is one of the prophets in my life and is also a voice inside my head. When I was 15, I was very much an unsettled youth looking for a challenge. My parents offered me the opportunity to go to an Outward Bound program for a month over the summer. Outward Bound, and I'm quoting their website, is the leading provider of outdoor education programs that allow young people to explore their personal potential since 1962. The program I went on was one where we sailed 100 miles up the coast of Maine in a turn-of-the-century whaling dory. You can imagine what that looked like. It's exactly as you're picturing it in your mind. From Rockland, past the Vinyl Haven to Machias Port. We then took a van to Grand Lake and canoed in lakes, swampy, leech-infested swamps, and white-watered rivers 75 miles back down towards Rockland. It was here that one of the counselors introduced me to Ram Dass. Be here now. That simple phrase, so basic, yet so difficult in practice, served me well for climbing those rock faces, rowing the dory for hours at a time in no-wind conditions in the Atlantic Ocean, and slogging through swamps with a 100-pound canoe on my shoulders. It serves me today when politicians frustrate me with their actions or lack thereof, when I don't feel well but still have to walk the dog, when my anxiety disorder acts up and my teeth start to chatter with worry about things I can't control. Ram Dass and Be Here Now is a voice inside my head. My maternal grandmother, Margaret Miggy Carr, was and always will be one of my favorite people in the entire world. If I didn't think my parents would maybe watch this, I'd say she was the first, but clearly Mom was number one. That woman loved me inside and out. I could literally do no wrong. If I came home with a C grade on a test, she would say, "You'll do better next time." One time I complained about her always giving me socks with other presents at Christmas. Yeah, socks. And she brought me Bibles and religious gifts for an entire year until I apologized. That woman was tough, but she loved the heck out of me. She's been dead for more than 15 years now, and I miss her every single day. In 2011, I was having a cocktail party at my apartment, and a friend brought a date that described himself as a medium who could speak to the dead. I don't know about you, but I have a healthy respect for the things that I don't understand. But I have a hard time believing some of these people. This man, whose name I have long forgotten, took one look at me and he said, "I have a message for you." I responded with, "No, thank you." He then said, "An older woman with long silver braided hair and another woman with shorter hair want to speak to you." He was accurately describing my maternal grandmother and great-grandmother. I said again, "No thanks, not interested." To which he replied, "Have you sugared your pork recently?" I stood there absolutely dumbfounded. I lived with my grandmother and my grandfather in Jupiter, Florida for 1 year after college, and we used to love to barbecue pork on their grill. As we perfected our marinade, one ingredient at a time, we noticed that a touch of sugar helped the meat to caramelize, and it added a nice sweetness to our mostly savory marinade. This was something that was said between my grandmother and I. I never told anyone else, not my grandfather, not my mother. I didn't have social media at the time. When we were marinating the pork, she would ask if I had sugared the pork yet, and that was code for did you start the marinating process? I was absolutely astonished. He then said that she loved me and she missed me and that she would see me again one day. Not anything particularly specific, but these were the exact last words that she spoke to me on the day she died. My grandmother reached across that rainbow bridge to instill the belief in me that there is more to what we see in life than what's just here right now. Mickey Carr, my grandmother, is a voice inside my head. The next one is a little lighthearted, but a voice in my head nonetheless. I'm inspired by the fact that Jesus began working his life as a carpenter. Well, to be fair, he was a stonemason. I mean, there are not many trees in Israel. There's a comedian, Jim Gaffigan, who imagines Jesus coming to a home where the owner opens the door and asks, I'm sorry, who are you? He says, I am Jesus, the Son of God, come to die for your sins. And the homeowner says, yeah, well, for now you're building me a shed, so up to it, Jesus. I know it's a joke, but in my world, your job is everything. It demonstrates your education, your capabilities. It's your station in life. The more you achieve, the more you deserve and get respect. This has never made sense to me. The head of Tibetan Shambhala Buddhism, Sakyam Mipham Rinpoche, says the tendency for us is to assume success means some sort of financial accumulation of wealth. In our tradition, in Shambhala Buddhism, we ask, do you have meaning in your life? Do you have quality of life and a sense of moving forward? Do you care for and love those around you? Jesus' humble beginnings and the words of the Sakyam are voices inside my head. As I have mentioned before, I went to a Christian liberal arts school in the North Shore of Massachusetts called Gordon College. Our professors were extremely learned and all had written many books. We had one professor who was asked to translate 2 of the books of the Old Testament when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. One of these professors, though, was Dr. Carr. Dr. Carr told me something that I have never, ever forgotten. He said, students, faith is not the absence of doubt. Faith is a belief in what is not yet seen. Let me say that again. Faith is not an absence of doubt. It's a belief in what is not yet seen. Gordon was an excellent school with extremely challenging classes and a focus on not simply listening to the religious voices of the day or how others interpreted the Bible, but it encouraged us to use our God-given intellects to reason through life and religion and ethics. Gordon was also a conservative school in that they taught homosexuality was a sin and that we had to repent from it to lead a spiritual and godly life. Dr. Carr on that day gave me the ability to imagine one day standing right here. I had faith that I would find a community like me who didn't judge me. I could and would find love in my life. Love you, Todd. And that I could have a meaningful spiritual experience in my life. I imagined all of you that day and had faith that I would find all of you. Dr. Carr became a voice in my head. I became aware of Dr. Robert Thurman, the first American to be allowed to achieve the title of Tibetan monk, professor at Columbia, author, and father of Uma Thurman. In his TED Talk from 2010, "We can be Buddhas." And I quote, this is Dr. Thurman's words, "We all share a bit of misery that we hold on inside ourselves. Sometimes we meet others and we share that misery. But ultimately, it creates this feeling of ourselves inside and others outside. This belief puts us in an impossible situation. If we are different from everyone else, how can we get the attention and love that we need? Compassion comes when you lose yourself in some way through art, meditation, through understanding, through knowledge that no such boundary exists, that you are truly interconnected with all other beings. You can see yourself in others when you see through the delusion of being separated from them. When you do this, you are forced to feel what others feel. When you get out of the I, me, mine, and you use empathy, you become interested in how other people feel. Note that Dr. Thurman doesn't say interconnectedness will allow you to think as others think. He says you will feel as others feel. If we have empathy for our fellow Americans, we may be able to see past this divisive political climate and find common ground. I have Trump supporters in my own family, and it is only when I don't make assumptions about what they think, when I don't pretend to know what they know, but I care about how they feel, then we are able to move towards connectedness. It takes empathy for feelings, not a more dominant argument. Robert Thurman is a voice inside my head. Five years ago, I sat in my first Wellspring group, and I was exposed to a PhD in social work and qualitative researcher from the University of Texas, Brene Brown. If you don't know her, she has one of the most popular TED Talks of all time with 57 million views called The Power of Vulnerability. In this talk and in her books, she talks about having studied happiness and connection. What she found was the number one indicator of people who feel love and connection is the belief that they deserve love and connection. I'm going to say that again. Brene Brown found that the number one indicator of people who feel love and connection is the belief that they deserve love and connection. They don't believe that they deserve it more than anyone else or to the detriment of anyone else. But at their core, they believe that they are worthy. Furthermore, the ability to be vulnerable to others and accepting of our failings makes us strong, not weak, and opens the door to creativity. Dr. Brown and I agree that connection is the ability to feel connected, and that's what life is all about. She goes on to say that the number one thing that unravels connection is shame and fear. Shame is the fear of disconnection. If others see me for who I am and see my shame, I won't be worthy of that connection or love. I couldn't agree more with this assessment. She continues that the only people who don't have this fear are those incapable of having human connection. According to Dr. Brown, success in feeling connection is underpinned by excruciating vulnerability. We have to allow our vulnerability to be seen. Over the past month, I worried many times that I wouldn't have enough to say to you, that my words would be too commonplace, that you might be bored. Yes, I have insecurities. I am blessed to have had parents, grandparents, and friends who all reminded me that I was worthy of love. I have found connection and meaning in my life, but I haven't always felt it. This is where my faith came into play. It is because of the wisdom of Brene Brown that I can say to you that you are all worthy of love and connection. You can all find meaning in your life if you believe yourself and lean into being vulnerable. I was at work in the meat department of the Del Mar Hannaford the other day when a customer came to me and asked if another employee was working that day. I asked, do you know his name? And she said, no, but he's skinnier than you. This is not the torso of a skinny man? How dare you is what I thought. But it's okay, I didn't take offense. She was looking for another employee that she had a connection with because only he had the ability to understand what she wanted. Brene Brown and her research on connectedness and vulnerability is a voice inside my head. Finally, maybe you'll indulge me for another minute and let me be a voice inside your head. This world is constantly pressuring us to want more, to do more, and accomplish more. I've said it before, but when Todd and I came to FUSA for the first time, we were astonished at how friendly you all were. We were actually a tad suspicious that you might be too friendly or it wouldn't last. I'm being honest. We could not have been more wrong. This community strives to love and support each other endlessly. You are really doing it. You care about the world and the earth. You make a difference in our community and strive to actually love our physical neighbors. You care about the church reflecting not just people from every corner of the world, but their culture as well. You give voice to the downtrodden and work to change laws and support a woman's right to make decisions about her body. You have been always open to blessing the unions of LGBTQ people before it was legal in this country. You hold those who would poison our environment to account. You celebrate diversity. You are the light of the world. You are advancing the kingdom of God here on earth. You should be proud of it. You should never stop. You should never quit. You should do it together. Never stop being who you are. I love you for it, and I hope you love it too.
An important way we celebrate life each Sunday is by offering an opportunity to practice generosity. Members and friends support our congregation with an annual pledge paid throughout the year. But another way to support the good work of this congregation is by making a generous contribution as we pass the plate, or by one of the options that will be shown on the next slide. If you are joining us virtually, you can click on the tiny URL link in the chat window to contribute, or you can send a text to the number that's shown on the screen. The examples on the slide show you how to label your text to indicate the amount and the purpose or the intent of your gift. We must now say goodbye to our Facebook friends. Consider please joining us on Zoom next time, or visit us at 405 Washington Avenue in Albany and join us here in Community Hall. You can find more information at albanyuu.org. Our offertory music is Go the Distance. It's by Alan Menken and David Zappel, and it will be presented by them.
I have often dreamed of a far off.
We enjoy welcoming guests and visitors to our service. If you'd like to tell us who you are and where you're from, those here in Community Hall should stand and raise your hand. Don Odell, our usher, will ask you to come up to the microphone so that everyone can hear you. Those joining us on Zoom can click on the raise hand symbol, which you'll find either in the participant window or in the reactions button on your Zoom toolbar. Our technician will invite you to unmute and introduce yourself. You may also, or instead, click on the visitor link you'll find now in the chat window. Anyone in Community Hall who would like to say hello? Okay, well, thank you and welcome to all of you who have joined us today. If you'd like to learn more about our congregation or about Unitarian Universalism, you can stop by the table in the lobby and speak with our friendly welcome table host. Or if you're joining us on Zoom today, you can find in the participant window someone with welcome before their name. You can reach out to that person privately in the chat window now or after the service. And now we welcome the chance to greet each other. Congregants joining us today on Zoom will be offered virtual breakout rooms. You can say hello and share your name. This will last about 2 minutes, and then we'll all come back together again. And if you're here in Community Hall, please greet others at a safe distance. On behalf of those joys and sorrows that are left unspoken, let us all hold that we have heard and felt in our hearts.
The prayer of affirmation this morning is the Tibetan wind horse prayer. Again, author unknown. As wind carries our prayers for earth and all life, may respect and love light our way. May our hearts be filled with compassion for others and for ourselves. May peace increase on earth, and may it begin with me. Closing hymn is Peace Like a River, American Spiritual, Donald Moore. Musicians and song leaders, Albany U Virtual Choir. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I can think of no more appropriate way to end this than with a poem by Rudyard Kipling called If. My maternal grandmother read to me Rikki Tikki Tavi and Captain's Courageous and the Jungle Book so many times I can't even tell you. So I love this poem, If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve you turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Our thanks today to the musicians, Randy Rosette, Chris Jensen, and the Albany UU Virtual Choir, and our ushers online, Kristen Abbas and Jean Poppy, and here in Community Hall, Don Odell and Kathy Harris. Our Pastoral Care Associates today, Chuck Manning and Sandy Stone, the Service Associate, it's me, Al DeSalvo, and our welcomers, Bob Manning and Elizabeth Barbarian. Our greeter this morning was Sigrid Newell. Our office support was from Tammy Goddard and Patience Bichette, and our technical support, Chris Jensen and Fred Ames. And the flowers today were donated by me and arranged by Deb Vogel in memory of my wife Susan Thompson's death on March 22nd. Susan loved seeing the bright yellow burst of forsythia and daffodils as a sure sign of spring. If anyone wishes to make a live announcement at this time, please click on the raise hand symbol in the Zoom toolbar and the technician will cue you to unmute yourself and present your announcement. Does anyone wish to make an announcement?
I see no one on Zoom who has raised their hand for that.
Okay, anyone here? Come on up to the microphone. There are also announcements that are on the screen, and if the technicians could, thank you, put that up. There it is. And I'll read them. The inclusivity team meets at noon today on Zoom. Use the service link to join, and all are welcome. Donations supporting refugees, as was mentioned already by Darnell Rorat. The sesquicentennial quilt discussion. The inclusivity team has informed the board and the ministry and operations team that the sesquicentennial quilt, lovingly created by members of our congregation 30 years ago, they feel no longer supports our vision of being an inclusive, welcoming congregation. Join us on Sunday, the 27th of March at 11:30, which will be after the service, for a discussion to learn more and for congregational participation in a potential decision in the future. Also, we're hiring. Albany UU is currently seeking a dynamic and creative part-time music director for 20 hours a week for 44 weeks annually. For more information on the complete job description as well as candidate requirements, visit our website, albanyuu.org, or email music.director, don't forget the dot, music.director@albanyuu.org. And anybody who's listening to this, if you have any connections in the music field, please make sure that you let us know. And to receive Albany UU e-news online, contact Dammy Goddard at admin@albanyuu.org.